and then we will be getting started. I'll have some housekeeping. But before we do roll call, I just want to just thank you all for being here. This is some of our most important work as the Board of Crime Control. The funds that go out into the field really are the kinds of funds that help save lives, help stabilize families, and help change for folks what can be some of the hardest times of their lives into something where they're connected to care and connected to support. So thank you for being part of this important work. Kayla, would you please do the roll call?
Yeah, Chantel Gaynor.
Ooh, present, sorry.
Lori Barron.
I'm here.
Amanda Littleson.
Disconnected.
Katie Snipes-Ruiz.
Good morning. Here.
Rob Weber. Scott Twido.
Virtually present.
Alan Doan.
Here.
Chantel, we have a quorum.
Wonderful. And then let's take a moment and introduce staff. So if we could start with folks in the room, and then if you'll call for folks online, that would be great.
Hannah, Administrative Specialist Supervisor for BCC.
Misty Downhauer, VOCA, SAA.
Oh, Kim Kels, Executive Assistant.
Kayla Bragg, Executive Director.
Jackie Hoover, Violence Against Women and Sexual Assault Program Manager.
Tammy Ferris, Finance Manager.
Great. Thank you all so much. I do see we have some folks from the public, and so we will have a couple opportunities for public comment. There will be an opportunity for public comment that is at the end for anything that's not on the agenda. In those cases, we can listen, but we can't take action. For the things that are on the agenda, you'll also have an opportunity after each item. And those are things that it's easier for us to integrate because you'll be speaking directly to things on the agenda. And then the way we'll do it is we'll accept public comment online first, and then we'll get into the discussions. You can also submit public comment by writing to the mbcc@mt.gov. And then one of the things that we are doing is really trying to make sure that these meetings are focused, that we are operating in similar ways across our different committees. So I've got just some things to share. So we'll start with action items. After something is introduced, we'll accept public comment, then take questions from the committee before moving to motions. We ask that one person speaks at a time, that you please speak clearly so we can hear. And to the extent possible, if we could also see you, that would be great. I know not everybody's technology allows for that, but if you're speaking, it would be preferred if you are also, we can see you. When you're not speaking, if you could please keep your audio muted. AI note-taking bots may not be used during the meeting until the formal state policy is adopted. And then a special one for my own mindfulness, but also all of us, please use full words and names and avoid acronyms. Not everybody. Thank you, Laura. It was really thinking of you that I wanted to have that on there. So if we can just be mindful of that, it helps make sure everybody can follow the conversation easily. Alrighty, so for committee members, they will be showing us what we need to see online, but also the materials are on BIMWAS. So making sure that you know where to go. If anybody has a question about that, now's a good time to let us know, and staff can help you get there. All right, let us kick it off. So the first action item we have is Domestic Violence Intervention Program. And so Kim's going to be leading us through this. Let's go ahead and have the introduction. And then if there's public comment, please raise your hand so that we know that you want to make a comment. Staff, can you please help me see when hands are up? My view doesn't always allow it, so I might miss something. All right. Kim, do you want to tell us what we're listening to?
Yes, just waiting for my cue. Alrighty, good morning, everyone. Kim Kels, I am the program manager for domestic violence intervention program, and the domestic violence intervention awards are from state special revenue, non-federal funds. This is an ongoing monthly revenue the Board of Crime Control receives as a portion of the marriage license fees from each county. They are mandated by state law and are awarded out to communities for misdemeanor probation officers or compliance officers to monitor compliance with sentencing requirements for offender convicted of or charged with specific domestic violence related offenses, including partner or family member assault, strangulation of partner or family member, and violation of protection orders. A funding opportunity was released March 18th with a closing date of April 17th. We had 5 applications with a total request of $306,746 with estimated available funding of $116,560. 3 of the applicants are prior grantees, and we had 2 new applicants. One is a pilot project, and the other is for additional services to an existing program. All applicants scored above the 60% threshold for funding. All right, here we have our options. Option 1, all applicants are awarded at 43.39% of allowable amount. That is the ratio of the request total to the award total. Option 2, funding all applications for the same amount. Option 3, funding the new offender services first and the balance divided between the rest. Or option 4, prioritizing new offender services, removing Board of Crime Control conference costs from the new applications for new applicant agencies allowable amount. Dividing the remaining funds by 3, then removing conference costs from Alternatives Inc., adding the difference to Community Supervision Services and Ravalli County, leaving supervision and offender financial burden reduction as priorities.
All righty, thank you. Do we have public comment on this agenda item? Seeing nothing, just double check with staff. Am I really seeing nothing? All right, great. Next, committee, do we have questions? Do you have questions?
Yes, this is Laurie. Can I go?
Yes, please.
Can we this is a super helpful document, by the way. This Word document with this summary is so nice to follow. Do we have the actual spreadsheet one that we can put on the screen as well? So we can see what those dollar amounts turn into based on those 4 recommendations.
Yeah, we're working on getting it up. Just one moment.
Yep. I was having a hard time processing the 4th option.
Yes,
the first 3 were easier to follow.
I need to read it again. I can.
Is it possible now to split the screen where that's on there plus the 4 options in writing are on there at the same time?
They're down below.
Or make that bigger? Yeah. I'm trying to read the 4 options and see the dollars at the same time.
Here, Lori, this is Kayla. We're gonna see if we can do that for you. Just give us a second.
And I can go into Benoit's and pull them up too. I just am I'm having a hard time with that fourth recommendation. That's super helpful. Now, if we can just make the wording smaller so it fits on the screen.
Okay.
The other three make good sense. Perfect. Thank you so much. Appreciate the extra effort.
Mhm.
While Lori is looking, I do have a question about option 4, which was the removing the conference cost from new applicant agencies allowable amount and dividing the remaining funds. How much does that change the how much was requested for attending the conference?
Tammy, was that the one that had 4,000? Because we had a couple different entities that were asking for funding to be able to come to the Board of Crime Control conference. There were 2 entities that asked for that.
Is that a typical ask? Is that something we typically fund through grant funds?
This is Tammy Ferris speaking. Yes, we do allow funding to help them attend the Montana Crime Conference in the fall. We had 2 of the applicants request conference fees. The Lewis and Clark County Justice Criminal, Lewis and Clark County Criminal Justice requested $520. Alternatives requested $1,859. In our discussions about the purpose of the grant, because there was so little, less than half to give, we wanted to have you have an option that is primarily supervision or offender financial burden reduction as your priorities. So we were trying to think, what could we say that really doesn't apply to those 2 priority areas? And that's why we suggested taking out the conference funding. So community services, they did not request conference funding, and Ravalli County did not request funding. Missoula County Community Justice did not request MBCC grant, MBCC conference funding. So what happens, and I know it's hard to understand under option 4, so I thought I would walk you through it a little bit more carefully, is first thing that I did was I took the allowable amount for Lewis and Clark County and Missoula County and put that into option 4. And then for Lewis and Clark County, I removed the $520. So you can see if you look between option 3 and option 4, you'll see that difference of that $520. Then after I took those 2 amounts, I subtracted that from the $116,559 and divided that by 3, which came to a little over that $17,000 option you see in option 3. And then I took that grand total and I removed, so 116,559 minus 32,000 minus 31,664 left me with the balance. I took out the 1,859 in conference costs from alternatives. And then that, because I first divided the remainder by 3, so they were equal, as you see in option 3. And then I took out the conference costs from alternatives, and that 1,859 was then split and added back in to community services and Ravalli County. I know that sounds really complicated, but we were trying to leave that supervision and offender funding in there for you. We just wanted to give you that option.
Okay. Are there additional questions? Katie?
Yes, absolutely. Just kind of looking at these numbers and perhaps Scott would have some insight about this too, just because he runs these kind of programs and things, is it looks like, that the three existing programs are like there's supplemental to some other sort of funding, where the two new programs look like that they're brand new out of the gate, might be that kind of a situation. I guess my question, staff may or may not know the answer to this, but depending on what funding option we pick, say, for example, we picked option one where the two new programs only get 13,000. Are they even gonna be able to get anything out the door at 13,000? Like, is that make it so where the project is not even viable?
I agree. What do you put about you? I don't think that $15,000 is enough, but it's just my opinion, which I'm not sure I'm allowed to state. That is an awful small amount. Tammy, do you have anything to add to that? Or Scott?
Give me just a moment. I'm going to pull up the scoring comments, and then I'll get back to you.
Okay, and then while you're doing that, a follow-up question. If I am remembering my funding history correctly, I think the last 5 years, the top three are who have been getting funding pretty much at the level of, well, because it was divided by 3 instead of by 5. But is that correct that those top 3 folks have essentially gotten as much funding as possible through this fund the last 5 years?
Correct, Chantel.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, that's correct.
So is that a fair statement that option one's not super helpful to the 2 new people?
I'm still double checking, but I believe that is the case. But let me just look real quick here and see what they requested on their budgets. Yes, at 13,000, Lewis and Clark County. They could fund some the supplies like bracelets, childcare costs, class registration fees for the offenders, client transportation, help with vehicles, but they also asked for staffing, and staffing alone, just one officer at 25% of their time would be 20,000. So it could staff a little bit, it could pay for a little bit of their program. Whether it would be able to allow them to get started or not, I can't answer that. And then Missoula. Yeah, what they're asking for is clinical violence risk assessments and GPS monitoring services for the $32,000. So maybe, the 13,000 could fund some of that risk assessments and monitoring, but it would not get them fully started based on what I see here in the applications.
Would the highest amount they could possibly get them started?
Yes. As you can see on the form here, it's a little hard to see with the screen divided, but Lewis and Clark County asked for 35,857. We would be funding them on either option 3 or 4 at 32 and 31,000. Missoula County asked for 36. They were allowed 32 in both option 3 and 4. They would be getting that 32,000.
All right. Thank you. Alan?
I have a question on where it says funding the new offender services. Is that for the victims of the offender, or is that services for the offender? And if it is for the offender, do we have any proof that that actually helps recidivism or anything like that?
You know,
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
this is one where I feel like you can weigh in. Misdemeanor probation services aimed at those who've been convicted of domestic violence does show improvement and reduction of violence and reduction of types of violence, provided it's paired with other things such as therapeutic interventions, skillful work with the misdemeanor probation officer. It might be other stabilizing services can be helpful. So it standing alone and just saying, we're watching you tends not to do it. But if it's paired with other things, misdemeanor probation can be quite effective.
Chantel, Scott had his hand up. I don't know if you saw him.
Thank you. I did not. So Scott, please.
Thanks, Chair Gaynor. I've got a question for the staff. The total amount available is the 116,560. And I honestly, this is the one that I think I testified for at the legislature, if I'm not mistaken, and it was primarily used for pretrial services, wasn't it? Meaning prior to disposition. Is that, do you guys recall that?
Scott, I don't recall that. I apologize.
Chair Scott, this is Kayla Bragg. You did testify this last session regarding this bill or this statute, and it expanded the scope to pretrial services. Previously, it was just for monitoring those convicted of certain crimes. So this is so this is new with the expansion.
And then I think just for purposes of the committee, I do recall that there were just those three players. And so the idea of expanding it to pretrial services is sort of, I guess, in a way, a benefit, though obviously the total money is not a lot. But to answer Alan's question, I am very familiar with research that shows, especially in domestic violence, while there are limited things you can do in sort of predispositional services, that can have a profound effect on recidivism and or protection of the victim. And so there is, I guess there is that. So these are important dollars. So if someone is using it for pretrial issues, that is important, probably equally, or if in some cases not more important than post-dispositional supervising services.
I would also like to offer one more comment, which is one of the dynamics that can happen when there's violence within, a couple of family. When there are court fines and fees and costs, if that couple is going to remain together, and sometimes they do, sometimes part of the power and control dynamic can be that it is in fact the victim who ends up carrying the cost, depending on the dynamics. And it's one of those unintended consequences of how we try and hold people accountable. So when folks have limited funds and they are ordered to certain classes or services, such as supervision, helping with those costs can help the victim in a way that we wouldn't anticipate as well.
Eric, can I ask a question?
Okay, Lori, and then County Attorney.
Yeah, I want to go back to what Scott said. I appreciated his, it could go better here than here, the pre-post. I was wondering if I could ask Scott to clarify that one more time, which applications he was talking about. That was helpful to me, but not being in that work every day, I just want to make sure I'm following correctly.
Certainly, Chair Gaynor, member. So essentially, I guess, and perhaps Chair Gaynor can also weigh in here, but the quicker you intervene, oftentimes leads to better outcomes. And obviously, there's limited things you can do pre-trial, but courts can order certain conditions of what we call release, or conditions of bond. Sometimes it's referred to, but it should be conditions of release. And those, the data is showing that the sooner you get involved, the outcomes appear to be better. And so that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Yeah, but which of those applications do you apply that to, is what I'm saying?
I guess,
since we're not seeing the whole application, I'm just trying to make sure I understand.
Right. The only one that I'm aware of is from my testimony. I know that Alternatives was the one that was kind of pushing the expansion into the pre-trial or predispositional services, so they could expand into that. And they were the ones that sort of presented the data. Does that answer your question?
Yep. Thank you. That's what I was trying to understand. I appreciate that.
It doesn't mean that these new programs aren't doing that. I can't tell you as I sit there. I think the description I heard from one of them, at least the Lewis and Clark, it appeared that they were.
And I am going to recuse myself from voting because number 5 is my department has a relationship with DB Court. But what I know from that work, those assessments are happening prior to conviction. So part of the DB Court's change is to have these cases resolved within 90 days when possible. So from the time of arrest to the time of disposition, which is a fast track, which it is predisposition, but it's while you're involved in the court case. So it is a rapid response. And those assessments are part of figuring out what happens within this case.
And then I just had a thought, Chair. Does the staff specifically have a recommendation? Because looking at this, and I apologize, I'm not looking at the camera, I'm looking at the big screen so I can actually see with my horrible vision. Option 2 to me seems obviously to be the most fair. Maybe other members disagree, but obviously we have to weigh the new players to the game plus what the old players relied upon in administrating their services. And so I was just wondering if the staff had like a recommendation, or like maybe 2 that seemed to be the most, I guess, equitable.
Scott, Tammy Ferris is online, our financial manager. Is there any information you could share, Tammy, in the scoring meeting that was had? Any discussion or any outcomes that you would like to share? Regarding
Sure.
A recommendation.
It was kind of hard for us because we weren't sure what your priority as the art committee would be. We read as much as we could to understand what the purpose of the legislative funding of this was, and our reading of it was that, and this is just our interpretation, was that this money was to start, try to get some of these programs off the ground. And in the past 3 to 5 years, the top 3 there that have had their funding provided every year have been off the ground and then have been using the funding to continue. So this is the first time we've gotten 2 new programs. So, you know, on one hand, we're like, yeah, we would like to be fair because we don't want the other 3 to not get enough funding to keep going. But we thought the intent of the money was more toward getting them off the ground, and then they, after they've, you know, got going for a little while, to start looking for other funding to help them continue to do their programs, because this is such a small amount of money in, you know, in the whole scheme of things. As you can see, let me get back here to my main screen where I can see things too with my older eyes. Like alternative or community services actually requested $110,000. And if we had given them all of that, there would be nothing left for anyone else. Alternatives asked for 62,000, Ravalli 62,000. And we have found that sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes in the past, they're unable to spend all of that money. But because it was all 3 of them all the time, that didn't, you know, that wasn't a problem. But now that we have these 2 brand new programs, I have to say, I don't think we have a preferred option. We just thought that with such little money, and our interpretation was startups were more important, that's why we gave you option 3 and option 4. I hope that answers your question.
It does. Thank you. So I have follow-up.
Yes.
So if the staff's interpretation is startup, and they asked, looking at this, they requested one requested 35, 8, the other one requested 36. Essentially, they both requested 36. But you think it's startup, then you think we should try to, you didn't make a recommendation, but in the spirit of how you interpreted it as startup money, you think we should help them start their programs. Did those new programs give any insight into how they were going to be able to sustain these services beyond the entry-level money they requested?
Yes, they all have a sustainability plan. I don't have that at my disposal right now.
Okay. I guess, do you recall like another source of funding to actually make this work? Because I agree with your assessment. Even if we gave them what they asked for, that's really not very much.
No, they all have to have something in their sustainability plan, or they would not pass the scoring. So they all have sustainability plans with other options for their funding if this funding were to go away.
Okay, thank you. I am satisfied. I think I know what I've made up my mind.
All righty. Are there any more questions, or are we ready for a motion? Seeing no questions, then I will entertain a motion.
Chair Gaynor, I'd make a motion.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I move that the committee, based on the input and information that we've been provided today and that was provided to us prior to this victim application review meeting, I would move for option 3 to be adopted by the committee.
Got it. Is there a second?
Katie Snipes Ruiz, second.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
This
All
is
right.
Katie Snipes Ruiz. I would just invite board member Twido to just, I guess, tell me why he thinks option 2 over option 3, because originally he was talking about option 2.
Right. Member Snipes Ruiz, I moved for option 3 based on the intent of what the money is to be used for, that it is to be a startup, and then that it is fair. Option 3 is then the fairest because it's equal to the other 3 folks that have applied. And so with that said, I think option 3 is more in line with the intent of how the money should be used. Option 2, I just said I thought was the fairest because it just basically gives the same amount to everybody.
Got it. Any additional discussion or questions? All right, calling for a vote. All in favor, please signal by saying aye.
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 Thank you. Any opposed? Thank you. And for the record, I abstained. All right. Thank you all very much. I do want to call attention to, we've got 20 more minutes, which should be plenty of time, and two more programs to get through. So let's go ahead and move on to the Sexual Assault Services Program funding. We'll start with an introduction and then see if there's public comment. Jackie, you are up.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So while they're getting that little overview up, I kind of want to introduce what SASP is. The Sexual Assault funding is specific funding to assist with sexual assault set aside, the things that are not normally covered by other grants. So this is a specific grant. It's very narrow. We had 8 applications. All were returning sub-grantees, so that was great. This is going to be a really easy option for you all because we are able, and this is the great news, we were able to fund everyone at 100% of their ask. So there won't be a vote here, or probably just one vote saying go ahead. But the SASP funds are designed to supplement other funding sources, like I said, directed at addressing sexual assault on the state and territorial level. Rape crisis centers and other nonprofit organizations as dual programs, providing both domestic violence and sexual assault intervention services, play a vital role in assisting sexual assault victims through the healing process, as well as assisting victims through medical, criminal justice, and other social support systems. So like I said, we were able to fund everyone at 100%. And so I will pass the baton over to you, Chantel.
Thank you very much. We do need to vote, but so before we move forward, is there any public comment on this agenda item? All right, seeing nothing. Any questions or comments from committee members? All right, also hearing nothing. I'll entertain a motion.
This is Laurie. I'll make the motion.
Great. And I assume the motion is to fund
yes, to fund them at full percent. Thank you.
Great.
Sorry. This one seemed too simple.
Right. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Great. Calling for a vote. All in favor, please signal by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Great, it passes. Thank you. Way to make up time. Well done. All right, and now we'll move into VOCA, Victims of Crime Act. Misty, if you please introduce the topic, and then we will proceed from there.
Of course. Good morning, everybody. Misty Downhauer, grant manager for the Victims of Crime Fund, VOCA. And so the Office for Victims of Crime, the Victim Assistance Formula Fund, VOCA, are allocated to programs that provide direct services to crime victims. The VOCA fund is financed by fines and penalties paid by convicted federal offenders, forfeited appearance bonds, special forfeitures of collateral profits from crime, penalties, and special assessments collected by U.S. attorneys' offices, federal U.S. courts, and the Federal Bureau of Prisons. Just kind of a little recap from last year. As you all remember, you passed that we would award 100% of the pass-through. And so that's how we are functioning on this one again. And then the 4 federally required service categories, of course, are domestic violence, sexual assault, child abuse, and underserved populations. For proposals that have reached the 60% minimum score, a staff funding recommendation is provided, and the ARC will consider the following criteria when reviewing proposals for funding, which is geographic areas, and then, of course, as I said, the domestic violence, sexual assault, child abuse, and underserved population with points associated with that. A maximum of 10 points and a minimum of 0 points. So this year, we posted our applications in January of 2026. We received 40 applications, and with three new agencies to those 40 applications. We have passed 38 applications for funding. 2 did not meet the 60% threshold or the criteria. So as you can see, we have 3 options. And I can read those because those are hard for you to see. So option 1, recommendation is based upon percentages calculated in table 1 by do you need me to slow down?
No,
Are you good?
I'm
Okay. By priority points of what was requested and allowable. Option 2, recommendation is based on each applicant receiving 77.312% of what was requested and allowable. And option 3, recommendation is based upon each applicant receiving 75% of what was requested and allowable, plus funding calculated in table 2 by priority points. And back to you, Chantel.
Great. Thank you so much. Before committee, is there any public comment on this agenda item? All right, seeing nothing. Committee members, any questions? Yes, County Attorney Twido.
Thank you. Can the staff put up the entire spreadsheet just so I can double check? Is that all right? Rather than have the process on the left. Thank you. I've got this giant monitor to my left over here, but I gotta be able to see the whole thing here. Okay. Thank you. I've got an idea. Chair, I think I have to bow out of this one. I have to abstain in this one.
Because your office has an application?
I think so, but there's ones here even beyond that I work with very closely. So yeah, I think I have to abstain.
Okay. Although you are still able to ask questions. And so if you have a question beyond that, please let us know. Any other questions from committee members?
Chair, this is Lori.
Thank you.
I think I'm just talking to myself to walk through this, so I'm not sure if I have a question more than just making sure I'm accurate in my understanding. So if we go with the first option, we're giving way more consideration to the priority. Whereas if we go with option 2, we're just balancing. And if we go to option 3, we're doing a combination of both. We're balancing and still giving some priority. Am I interpreting that correctly?
That is correct. This is Tammy.
Yeah, I like the, I think it's important to consider the priority points. It's something we've talked about as a board for a long time, and but I'm not sure that that's all we use. So right now, unless someone gives me different information that I see in a different perspective, I really like option 3 because I like the balance. It gives everybody a base. And then it also honors the priority points, unless I'm seeing that from a different perspective.
Lori, this is Tammy. That is correct. Table 1 considers the priority points, and we reflect that off option 2 of dividing the percentage equally. Table 1 considers just the priority points, and because it's 77% in the middle, we have to adjust based on what we have available. We adjust at 0 priority points at 68% and 10 priority points at 80%. So you can see who would get what percent. And then again, as you spoke in table 2, it considers that everyone gets 75%. And then depending upon their priority points and the funding levels, a person who has 1 priority point would get an additional $653, whereas person who has 10 priority would get 10 times that much at $6,530. So you are understanding the tables correctly.
I really appreciate the work in those written narrative summaries to go with this. That is really helpful. And a big thank you for spelling out all of the acronyms. I know they're very common to 90% of the people, but they're not to me. And so it's super helpful when y'all do that. Can you scroll the bar all the way to the left so we can see the actual applicant name, not just the city? Okay. Do you mind doing a slow scroll? Fast scroll? Thank you. Very helpful. Thank you.
Chair Gainer, I have a question too.
Okay. Lori, are you ready are you okay for me to?
Good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Judge.
So if I'm understanding option 1, it's based on priority points, but it looks like everyone at least has 2 priority points. So if we were to pick option 1, everyone would get funded at at least at 70.47%. And then basically it's a 10% swing. Is that what I'm understanding correctly?
This is Tammy Ferris. Yes, Judge, you are understanding correctly.
Okay. All
right. Any additional questions? My standard question when we're looking at VOCA is if you could remind us what we selected last time. I like to know when we are making a change or being consistent with previous years.
Yes. So these are the exact options that was offered last cohort, and you all voted on option 3.
Got it. And then one more clarification. Our cohorts run, it's basically 2 years is one cohort. Are we in the middle of a cohort or are we starting a new one?
This one, what you're voting on today will start a new one.
Got it.
I have to go back. We had this conversation yesterday. Excuse me, this one actually is the second phase of it. Does that make sense? So yes,
Got
in
it.
the middle of it. Sorry.
So the first half of the cohort, we picked option 3. The
Yes.
second half of the cohort, we do have the option of making a different choice, but I just want the committee to be cognizant of it. Alrighty. Any more questions at this time? All right, are we ready for a motion? If so? Okay.
This is Laurie.
Alright.
I will make
Thank
the
you.
motion. I'll make the motion that we adopt option 3 as presented.
Great. Any further discussion at this time? All right, calling for a vote. All in favor of option 3, please signal by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? And County Attorney Twido, you abstain.
Abstain.
Who was the
Great.
second on that, Chair?
Was it the judge?
Thanks.
If I didn't second, I will second it. How about that?
All righty. We are through our agenda items. Is there any public comment for any matter that wasn't on the agenda? All right. Seeing nothing, we will stand adjourned.
Chair
Thank you so
Gaynor, I'm
much.
sorry. Chair
Yes?
Gaynor, I'm sorry. We may have a comment. Hold on one second. Let me have
Are we able to see the possible award is for a specific county?
Go ahead and read it out.
Yep.
We do have an online comment to
Yep.
share.
Okay.
Somebody asked, are we able to see what the possible award is for Lincoln County?
Got it.
Can you do that?
What is the best way to share that information at this point?
I mean,
Chair Gaynor, I am happy I'm happy to follow up with the public member after the meeting, if that's okay with the chair.
That works for me. And then I see Alan, your hand's up.
Yeah, Madam Chair. I was just wondering, were these documents emailed out to us prior and I just missed that email, or was there any way to review this information beforehand and I just missed it?
Staff, do you want to address this?
Yeah, Chair Allen. Yeah, I would work with you on getting into the online board member web access system. That way, ensure that you can get in there and look at the documents prior to the meeting. So I'll reach out to you and we can set up a call.
I get my question is there a reason that they can't be emailed out? Is this like top secret information or something, or?
Chair Allen, we can definitely discuss that moving forward if that's a preference of the board and committee members to have documents sent via email versus Benoit's or both. I'm happy to have that discussion on how you would like to do that moving forward.
Perfect. Thank you.
All righty, thank you. All right, so Kayla's going to follow up on the question that was online and with Member Joan, and otherwise, now we stand adjourned. Happy Friday. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.